This meeting is also the first meeting that we are organizing, because for us this is the kickoff of the discussion with you as experts, and continuation of some discussions that have been already happening within the Microfinance Center and other fora on BDS and migrants and refugees financial inclusion. And so it's really nice to see you all. We have several participants that unfortunately cannot be here with us, from UNCHR, from the Frankfurt School, from International Rescue Committee, but they said that they would like to contribute post workshop in writing. So there will be also already a lot of knowledge that is going to be shared post this event, because Joanna and I will both hope that it's going to be a kickoff meeting, and the conversation are going to roll at least until the end of the year, and if not more. So there will be a new role that it's going to be later shared with you, and also there will be a contribution. If you would like to contribute, you can contribute on the chat. All the comments are going to be recorded. All the comments are going to be included. We want to make it as useful for everybody who works on this issue as possible. And even if you're not working on this issue, we would like to that you have some useful resource for maybe some references later on. So as I said, my name is Katarzyna Hanula. If you register as me and you're not me again, please change your name to your proper name. And I'm here with Joanna. Joanna, wave your hand to everybody that they know you. But maybe right now we would like to have a tour de table and a short introduction from each of you. So you can just say your name, last name, and organization working on, and maybe what's the topic, like what topics are you working on? And thank you. Joanna, maybe I point you and then you can, yes. We do it popcorn style, so the next person can name the next person if you want.
Okay. Good afternoon to everybody. I hope if it's good afternoon for you. I'm Joanna Afonso from the European Microfinance Platform. For those who don't know us, we are a network of around 130 institutions and individuals working in financial inclusion in developing countries. We touch in several topics, all topics linked to financial inclusion, and we joined forces with Microfinance Center recently on this topic, because this has been something that has been increasingly present on the interests of our members, and our members include all types of stakeholders in the sector, from the investors, research consultants, the big DFIs, all the institutions that you can think that can be part of the financial inclusion sector. So we are very happy to have joined forces with Microfinance Center and helped in the dissemination and in reaching out further on this topic. So I think I have Suvi on. I hope I said the name correctly.
Yes, indeed. My name is Suvi Lammi, and I am coming from the DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion of the European Commission, where I'm working in the unit Social and Inclusive Entrepreneurship. And I will name Christoph.
Hello, I'm Christoph van Emerijk. I'm from the Belgian Federal Migration Center. I have to admit, we haven't worked that much on microfinance. So the Federal Migration Center, MIRIA, is a national human rights institute on migration for Belgium. And so we work on access to banks and to banking services. We recently published a report on it. Then I will pass the floor to Kristina Maslauskaite.
Oh, well done. Hello, my name is Christina. I work for the Council of Europe Development Bank. Microfinance is one of our focus sectors of activities, and so is, in general, topics of refugee and migrant integration. Happy to be here. I have to name. I'll name Olga and Olena from IFC.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Olga and Olena, we are joining from Warsaw. I am permanently based in Warsaw. Olena used to be based in Kiev, but now temporarily, hopefully, is based in Vienna. Both of us belong to the Financial Institutions Group Advisory in IFC. And currently, we are working on facilitating better access of Ukrainian refugees to finance in Poland, Romania, and Moldova. Recently, we completed the assessment of financial and non-financial needs of refugees in Poland, and we'll be presenting the results in early September. But happy to join the team to join this discussion. And Olena, if you want to add anything, sorry if I stole all.
No, thank you, Olga, for you completely covered everything. Maybe that we also expanding to Caucasus to include Caucasus countries, specifically Georgia, into our market research and support and working with financial institutions, specifically microfinance institutions, on supporting access to finance to refugees.
Right, and the ultimate goal eventually is to see that refugees have access not only to current accounts or money transfer, the currency exchange, but also to have opportunities to borrow from the banks and microfinancial institutions, and also have opportunities for mortgages and savings accounts and so on. While we are focusing on individual refugees, we also are looking at refugees as entrepreneurs and what kind of businesses they are opening in the host countries. That's all. And I'm naming Varun Chitale.
Thanks, Olga. Hi, my name is Varun Chitale. I work with Kwashi Aguito, who's also on this call at Axion as part of the Global Advisory Solutions team. We're both working on a project, myself in Ethiopia and Kwashi in Uganda, where we're supporting the helping to build refugee livelihoods through various financing programs. The specific one that I'm working on in Ethiopia is helping to create income-generating opportunities for refugees from South Sudan in the Gambela part of Ethiopia through a retail distribution business that we're helping them to create. And we're working with a local bank in Ethiopia to develop an inventory financing product. I might hand it over to Kwashi to describe what he's working on from the Uganda side. Kwashi?
Varun, sorry, we missed the very beginning. My mind went blank. What's the organization that you're representing?
Axion. And I work in Axion's Global Advisory Solutions team with Kwashi. But it seems he's having some connectivity issues. So I can give a quick overview of his side of the program, which is similar to the Ethiopia half. It's trying to create income-generating opportunities. In Uganda, we're working with e-commerce platforms to help refugee women sell goods through marketplaces, and we're helping to provide inventory financing on that front as well. Should I pick someone to hand over to, Olga?
Yes, you should pick somebody to hand over.
Okay.
And
I will pick Anna Polanco.
Thank you. So I am Anna Polanco. I work in Enable, which is the Belgian development agency. We don't work directly on microfinances, but we support refugees and migrant people in entrepreneurship and business creation in different partner countries. So happy to be here with you, and I will hand over to Francesco Gaetano.
Sorry, I'm Francesco Gaetano from the European Commission, DG Justice. I deal with over-indebtedness. In this case, I'm following this meeting exclusively in as a guest, I mean, because I do not deal with the refugees issues, but there are aspects in common that concern the possible access to finance for vulnerable people. So this is the corner I am most interested. Thanks.
Would you like to name another person, or should we just take over this popcorn style and just go to with the list? It's your choice. If you would like to name them.
As I mentioned, I was requested by the colleagues of DG FISMA to follow this meeting I mean, as a guest once again. So I have no idea of whom should follow my.
Don't worry. So I named Florian because I see he's from FISMA.
This presentation, but I mean, you requested and I did.
No, Francesco, no, it's just the introduction. It's just for moving up the introduction a little bit faster. Florian, I see you from DG FISMA, so maybe we take you next to just introduce
Yes, Florian
yourself briefly.
Holstein here. Hello, thank you very much. As you already said, DG FISMA, and I'm working in the Retail Financial Services unit.
Great, thank you. Then yes, I can
go
just
ahead.
take it off. Yeah, I think that might be faster. So Anastasia.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Anastasia. I am a technical advisor for economic empowerment at the International Rescue Committee in Europe. In the Resettlement, Asylum and Integration Unit, which covers the US and Europe. I was forwarded this invitation from Annelien and Daphne. Our programming mainly encompasses labor market integration, programming, entrepreneurship support, so business training, business development services, as well as general integration, foundational skills building for refugees and migrants and other vulnerable populations. And we work, as a geography, I support country programs in the UK, Germany, Italy, Poland, and Moldova, I think. Okay, and Greece, yes, and Greece. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Lena? Lena, you're muted.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lena Hansen. I am an independent consultant in financial inclusion, focusing on refugees, migrants, and other foreign-born residents in markets, primarily in sub-Saharan Africa and Middle East. And I'm looking forward to hearing from the BDS experts here. Where we are on the BDS side of financial inclusion. Great to be here.
Thank you very much. I think there were some problems with Fashi connection.
Yes,
Fashi?
yes, there was. I hope you can hear me now.
Yes, please.
Yes, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Yes, so as Varun mentioned, I'm part of the Global Advisory Solutions team at Action. And as he also indicated, I'm leading a project in Uganda and also supporting the project that Varun mentioned in Ethiopia, where we are supporting financing a project for refugees, but the focus is essentially on refugee women.
Great, thank you very much. Sahana?
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Sahana Arun Kumar here, and I head Amarante Consulting. We're a company focused on digital and financial inclusion, working on different population sets and priority markets. And refugees and migrants are one of our priority segments because mandated by our clients. We work a lot with development organizations and also private sector. And a lot of the work we've done in refugees and in different countries in Africa and also the Middle East has been focused on helping see how they have more access to finance, but also in the sense of financial transactions. Remittances, for example, being able to pay bills or being able to receive income, and everything else that goes around that in terms of ecosystem. So sometimes it's with simple KYC and what kind of identification they could use. Sometimes it's a focus on regulatory discussions and also working with development organizations to see how we can streamline or make it more easy for financial products and services access, and of course sharing best practices. So in that sense, we work with microfinance sector, but we also work with the overall ecosystem, looking at making standard of living or life easier for these population sets. We've been a member of the EMFP for quite a while now, and happy to be also part of the action group focusing on refugees with the IRC, and really looking to share what we can bring to the table, but also learn from all of you all. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much.
Well, you will do it.
Yeah, I will. I see you because I thought I would be. So Yusra, please.
Hello, colleagues. I'm Yusra Hamid. I work for the International Labour Organization in the social finance program. That is the program that is concentrating all activities around the financial system. One of my areas of work is access to finance for refugees, where we are having an integrated approach to work with the demand and the supply side. So with the demand side in terms of financial education and entrepreneurship training, and from the supply side with the banks, MFIs, any financial service provider that wants to adapt or create new financial services to serve refugees. We work mostly in Africa and the Arab region. So in Uganda, in Ethiopia, I was hearing some of you mentioning countries where we are working as well. Kenya, Sudan, Egypt, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, Cameroon. So mostly our activities are concentrated in Africa and the Arab region in this integrated approach, but we do also a lot of financial education in Latin America for refugees and migrants, mostly in the response to the Venezuelan crisis. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much. I still have like two Katarzyna Skanula, which is me, so I'm just going to talk in my trinity to you. So as I'm senior financial inclusion lead working on the financial inclusion and livelihoods of migrants and refugees, the Microfinance Center, it's the regional association, but the work that we are pursuing is focusing mostly on European Union. But as we are looking at transferability of certain solution, it's also good to look at the other regions to see what has been there and how we can be adapted or implemented in the EU. So for the group that started in 2022 before the Ukrainian war, and the work was focusing on how MFIs, if there are any MFIs that are already working on with refugees as a group, and if there is anything that there's some special things that are being implemented for that group, or there are any special services. And there was a lot of a capacity building, and this year we expanded the scope to include migrants and refugees. We work with some of you to kind of on the technical side of things. We're analyzing how the sector, the microfinance sector and the social finance sector, which we also very closely cooperating, is developing this services or activities towards this group. And I think especially in Europe, it's very relevant because from some research I saw that it's 5% of the EU population that is non-EU citizens, so migrants, refugees, and asylum seekers, and we can only expect that it's going to raise in the next few years. So I hand over to Joanna to go through the agenda and the objectives of the meeting, and then we kick off with you to some fascinating discussion.
Thank you, Kasia, and I'll be very quick because I think that you've seen it already in the materials that Kasia sent. So the idea is to really focus on the large part of the conversation on the questions that were sent before, and try to see if we can get through all of them, or at least focus on the initial ones, and in particular the three first ones that are, I think, the ones that are most relevant at this stage, and continue the conversation on the others. So the objectives of the meeting are focused on those questions, and I will probably just launch the first one because I think that as Kasia was saying, the group started focusing on refugees and then broadened the scope to migrants. And the discussions with several of you, there are this question of what is common, what are the commonalities and what are the differences when we talk about refugees and migrants in this entrepreneurial context, because that's what the focus of the working group is. And I will pass first to Kasia because I think she will kind of introduce the topic and then open to you in terms of not a large discussion, because this probably can go for a long time, but to try to understand what are the most relevant issues that we need to take in consideration when addressing the following questions and addressing the topic. So Kasia.
Thank you, Jana. So we wanted to start with kind of talking to you a little bit about the differences between the migrants and refugees, because I think in a lot of situation we do have the ideas of the migrants as a one group and the refugees as another group. Of course, there are binding definitions for those two groups, but from your experience, if there is anything that you found some particular when you're working with one or other group, and is there anything that should be highlighted when we're looking at how to support and develop recommendations and the services and the indicators when working with the financial sector institutions? So the main difference is that the migrant is someone who chooses to move, and the refugee is someone who has been forced from their homes. But then, of course, there is a lot of binding thing, and I wish UNCHR was here because they, of course, have a very strong focus on refugees. But maybe I launch a general question to you all from your experience, from the work that you are doing. Are there any maybe characteristics or features that you see that we should really take into consideration while working on the financial inclusion and financial services for refugees? You can raise hand or you can type in a chat. So that's it's up to you if you would like to react.
Kasia, let me know when you want me to pass to the other slides that you had prepared.
Yes, please. The other two slides are just
this one.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So that's and indeed. So maybe let's just keep the question first. Sorry, and then we go to the barriers and gaps.
So let me just do like this. That's the question.
So that's basically for us. Are there any strategies that can be common or different in approaching migrants and refugees from the experience that you have? Anastasia?
Yes, maybe just a very foundational one, that it is common, at least I would say in the EU context, at least from my perspective, is that when somebody has received international protection status, so they have the refugee card, they very likely have the right to self-employment, so not only access salaried employment. Whereas when it comes to migrants, there is an extreme diversity in the type of documentation that they have, right? So migrant is a very broad category, and it is very often that we might approach migrants who might not really know what kind of rights they have. So very often you might have a permit that is only valid for salaried employment, right? And that basically precludes you from opening a business or engaging in entrepreneurship types of activities. Similarly, when it comes to access to finance, it is not only then the length of stay that you are entitled, which sometimes affects the capacity to receive a loan, but practically your legal status per se. So I would say Migrants group has quite a big diversity in this.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Christoph?
Yes, sorry. Yeah, maybe a bit to follow up on it, just from the perspective. So as I said, we're from the National Human Rights Institute, so we basically get complaints where things go wrong. And when we talk about refugees, indeed, it's a status. You get a residence permit with a certain validity. But if you're a migrant, depending on like which type of migrant, indeed, it's a very broad category. But if we talk about, for example, an asylum seeker, access to banks, access to whatever kind of services they provide is way harder because they have a temporary residence permit that is not only like it's very insecure. So yeah, it really depends. Migrant is a very broad definition, but if we say refugee or asylum seeker in that like binary kind of way of thinking, of course, like a migrant or an asylum seeker is in a way weaker position than a refugee.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, I think no more takers, but I think those two comments give a very good kind of a background for the discussion that we have, because we also saw it with the temporary protection directive that was implemented, that the refugees started having a very the Ukrainian refugees got much easier access to the financial services, to getting the financial assets. And I know that IRC also did a lot of on this transferability of the data that later could be somehow promoted to when we are approaching the refugees. Maybe right now, Joanna, we go back to the gaps, because we also identified through the work that we have been doing a certain barriers in accessing finance. So it was both for the migrants and refugees. They seem to be very much aligned. So a lack of documentation, there is a cultural language barriers in a lot of cases. It's depending on the country or of origin, there is a low financial literacy. There is also a gap sometimes in the access to and use of the digital technologies. There is a discrimination and bias because, of course, the law is telling one thing, and sometimes it's not really what is not written in the law. It's interpreted one way or another. The same is with regulation, because sometimes the regulations are providing a right to have a basic bank accounts, and then it actually in changing the way that interpretation by financial institution is not being done, and employment and credit history, lack of stable address, which becoming an issue, and of course costs. Right, so that's the barriers that we identified for migrants and refugees in accessing finance. And then we have also, Joanna, the next slide, if I can ask you to. So barriers for opening the business, right? Because we also saying that a lot of people who are migrants and refugees, we're trying to help them with establishing themselves, starting their businesses, but it's a one way because maybe they are more entrepreneurial, and the other way because they may not be able to get the employment that matching their qualification and status. So to provide them livelihoods, the entrepreneurship is sort of a solution for building their lives in the new country. So we have here like the barriers for opening the business is lack of legal status of work permit, as was mentioned. Maybe they do have a work permit to start to be in the formal employment, but they do not have the work permit to start their businesses. they have limited access to capital, although we're trying to work on that part as well. But we know that the perceptions of risk are really high, so there needs to be some guarantees. And I know that from our work with the EU that the guarantees are being provided, and that actually ends, but it's still the limited access to capital, language barriers, lack of business network, which is crucial, unfamiliar regulatory environment, recognition of qualification. There are some, in certain cases, psychological barriers, difficulty in accessing business development services and housing and instability. My question to you would be, do you agree with those barriers for both the access to finance and opening the business, or you disagree, or are there anything else that we should be aware of and and we didn't list in this on those two slides? Kwashi?
I hope you can hear me. Sorry, my network is highly unstable this afternoon. Yeah, I think largely I agree with what has been listed in both instances. I just wanted to add that I don't know if it's the same as unfamiliar regulatory environment, but there are instances that you may be very familiar with the regulatory environment, but then the laws are so unfriendly that it doesn't permit migrants and refugees to be able to operate in certain type of businesses, right? So for me, I think that would be an addition to consider.
Great, thank you very much. That's a good addition.
And I think Christoph has his raised hand.
Yes, I do. So maybe on 2 points, on the regulation, we also saw that indeed this anti-money laundering directive was very problematic in a few ways. So it's a directive that is on the European level, but then it has to be implemented on the national level with guidelines given by the national bank, which is then further delegated to the individual banks. And so basically it categorizes certain people as high risk, middle risk, low risk. And there is a certain bias we saw, or we can deduce from the numbers that there is some bias involved. We had some cases of Iranian people, for example, that had problems just because of their nationality. And then just maybe to add something, so you have here the barriers for opening the business, so the lack of legal status, but also the lack of a long-term legal status, a non-precarious one. I think that's an important one. And the regulatory framework, also just to give a positive example, in the implementation of the Temporary Protection Directive there in Belgium, to start a business, you have to have a professional card. And in the context of the Ukrainian crisis, they allowed in Flanders, or I think it was in the whole of Belgium, to get an exemption of this professional card, which for other categories of migrants doesn't apply. So it was a positive way of facilitating the opening of business in our country for Ukrainians.
Thank you very much. Olga and Elena?
On the previous side, where you have barriers for access to finance, I would also add additionally issues with long-term status, because right now, for example, in Poland, we know that the status is up to February, March 2024, but then it's likely to get extended. Even if the war ends, people will not be able to immediately move back home due to the demolition of infrastructure, housing, issues with medical and educational system, and so on. So most likely the status will get extended. But for the banks, it's one of the red flags, because when we talk to local financial institutions, they are very cautious about long-term lending to Ukrainian refugees, because they see the current regulation as the hard stop. and the uncertainty around the legal status of refugees prevent the banks to consider them as potential borrowers in the longer term. On the next slide, on the barriers with opening the business. So part of the opening the business is the regulatory side, but also getting access for the business operation, be it working capital or longer term investment capital. The businesses also need to approach banks. And here the time works against them, because at least for a year, they will not have sufficient track record with as a local legal entity to be able to apply for a local loan. And so again, when we talk to Polish financial institutions, they say, yes, we see that, for example, Ukrainian refugees are opening businesses. According to the data that we were able to find, about 20,000 new businesses were established in Poland during 2022. However, these businesses are new. They operate less than a year. And so only now they will be able to get, after 1 year passed, they will be able to get loans from the banks.
Okay. Can I, before Kwashi, can I just jump in, because I wanted to link what Olga was saying with what Lena has written in the chat, because I guess this is the difficulty of being a very startup. So to being a new business is not only for the migrants and the refugees. It's something that is also for the hosts, for the residents. And Lena was mentioning this idea that maybe it's not as important to think on these distinctions between migrants and refugees, but think of what's in each context, what is important to serve all residents, including migrants and refugees. And I don't know, Lena, if you want to follow up on that or not. If not, we will pass to Kwashi, but just wanted to bring that because I think it's an important point on this initial question.
No, thank you, Joanna. I don't have my raise hand button visible, so that's why I use the chat. Thanks for raising it. I just think that we tend very often to get bogged down in these definition of subsegments, and they are complex, and some are legal and some are not, and some are normative, and they all differ across countries. So for me, it's more important that we try and take the bigger picture view of financial health, financial inclusion for everyone on equal terms, so that we avoid getting into these slightly nitty-gritty discussions of whether you are entitled to this or that or the other. And obviously, that's where we perhaps sometimes get into a heated discussion with UNHCRs and the like, because the legal positioning and rights are so important in many aspects. But here, in terms of financial inclusion, to me, it really isn't as important what status you have. It's important that you are a resident. It's important for the suppliers that you are legal in some form, but really our work is to make sure that everyone who is a resident in a different country has an aspect of access and ability to move on with their livelihood. And for that, I believe that we need to not get into KPIs for each of these very complex categories, but that we actually keep the focus on overall financial inclusion, financial health for everyone. Thanks.
Kwashi, you wanted to add something? Sorry for the interruption.
No worries. A quick one on the access to finance. I just wanted to say that, beyond the regulation where you indicated, anti-money laundering, KYC, and things like that, I think that particularly for institutions that are very digital in nature, right? the algorithms that are used for credit decision making goes to disadvantage migrants and refugees, because if you look at the parameters that that make up these algorithms, you find that they are not suitable, or they are more tailored for they are not tailored for refugees. And so that's the point I wanted to make, that the algorithms can be a disadvantage.
Thanks. I think Anna has her hand raised.
Yes, thank you. So maybe just to add some ideas, I would say that there is also an issue related to trust in institutions. For instance, we have seen that in some countries where we work, and national institutions are supporting also migrants and refugees to create business, but there is a little of resistance or mistrust from refugees and migrants towards the public institutions related to that. The second point, it would be also related to point one that you mentioned of legal status, but also the fact of renewing these legal status, which sometimes make difficult for people that they just start the business, but they have some issues renewing the work permit or its legal status. And the third one, it would be related to not having enough income, or the fear to have not enough income to pay taxes that are related to self-employment status, for instance, or to pay back the loans. So I will add these 3 points. Thank you.
I would probably take the advantage of all these things that you are saying to link to the second question that we have, because if we have these barriers and these issues that are identified, what have you seen, and particularly for those of you that have been working directly in the field, and you have several of you here that are doing that, what are the strategies that have you seen in terms of supporting the creation of businesses or work by refugees and migrants that have worked better? Maybe, Kasia, I'm going to pass to the question there, if you're okay with that.
Sure, of course.
Because I think it's linked to, and we can continue the conversation on the challenges and the barriers, but associated already on what are the solutions? What have you seen in the field?
Indeed, I think that discussing the solution at this moment would be very interesting, because we're very good in identify always what doesn't work. So maybe we can right now focus on what works or what could potentially work. From the experience that you have, or even if you just have to do a blue sky thinking and saying, like, maybe this is something that works. Because of course, from the microfinance perspective, we do have certain proofs of a certain initiative, both by the NGOs and by MFIs that work with us, and that's that they can tell us that, for example, the skills trainings, that more of the business mentoring, language is really relevant, providing a network, providing some sort of regulatory and market support, like understanding if you have somebody who works with you, who is your financial advisor, and understands the culture that you are coming from, is also kind of reassuring. So we always think that from hearing from our members, from the MFIs, this part of this humanizing finance and this providing the support works very well for migrants and refugees. But generally, referring to Lena, I think this kind of more personalized and humanized support works for everyone. But so so maybe the question to you, what in your view could be the good BDS strategies that we should be advocating for or promoting among the members? nobody, if so from the, there
I
are
think
some questions.
Lena has an example for the EU in Denmark, right?
Yeah, I've sort of been advising a very small, or started very small upstart on the BDS side, and I'm quite impressed actually with where they've taken this. They linked up with a local Oikos bank, and worked with the bank to understand why it was so difficult for migrants and refugees to get access to business accounts specifically, right? Because I mean, these basic accounts people can maybe get, but if you want to scale your business, you need a business account. And then they started a mentoring and a training session with interested entrepreneurs, refugees and migrants, and eventually sort of recommended them to the bank. So they worked both on the demand side and the supply side to make sure that the bank didn't just de-risk, but actually took these applications seriously, and also worked on the demand side to help people become qualified applicants to the bank. It's still very small, but what I really liked about it is that it took a commercial approach, so that the mentoring is not donor funded and reliant on grants, but actually requires the applicant to pay for the service, but at the same time negotiated on the supply side that the bank reduce its fees. And I just think that type of sort of more private sector matching effort to get people the tools that they need for financial inclusion, I really like. So I wanted to highlight that little example from a high income or EU specific context.
That sounds very good. I think it was Sana that shared also an example. I don't know, Sana, if you want to develop, but you can see it in the chat as well.
Yeah, thank you, Joanna. I mean, it's just to flag that, there is, of course, a lot of regulatory issues, and, banks have their own rules sometimes that are not regulatory governed, but it's, their own risk policy, etc. That can be worked upon. But sometimes it's also just pure behavior that changes because of the nature of the situation that the migrants or refugees find themselves in, and that probably needs other efforts, maybe sensitization, or seeing how, from a business model perspective, it makes sense for a finance institution or fintech. So in the case of Jordan, as I put in the chat, we found that migrants don't usually use SIM phones, SIM cards, or local SIM card, which means that they can't get a mobile wallet. And they just prefer to do though, because all they need is connectivity back to family. So using WhatsApp or, seeing YouTube, and they can do that with a data package that's quite cheap. And then it kind of excludes them completely from having a digital channel for financial transactions. So just flagging that it might also be a business or a field sensitization issue. Of course, regulatory issues are quite strong as well and valid, but each market, as we are saying, has different contexts for these segments.
Thanks, Hannah. I don't know if anyone else would like to share. I would like to know if Varun and Kwashi are up to it. If Action, as you work in very different contexts, do you have similar approaches on this type of more the support in terms of business development services or development of skills training? Are your approaches similar in the different regions, or is it tailored for each of your projects? And sorry to put you in the spotlight, but I think that's something that is, I mean, interesting to understand as well.
No, it's a fair enough question. And I'm happy to provide a response, and Kwashi can add some context as well. To your point, I think what we have observed is we like to tailor our approaches to business skills development amongst refugees. We're working specifically with women in both Ethiopia and Uganda. But our approach to building capacity amongst these populations is tailored to the country they're coming from, the existing level of financial and business literacy, even just the level of education and business experience. So what we did prior to commencing our program was doing some detailed market research on the level or the demographics of the women that we're looking to approach for our income generation programs. And then we're tailoring our capacity building to where they are, not where we hope they will be. And so, as mentioned at the top of this call, in Ethiopia, we're working specifically on retail distribution businesses, or trying to create income opportunity generation through business through retail distribution. The business skills capacity building is going to differ quite a lot in Ethiopia compared to what we're doing in Uganda, where there is businesses developed through e-commerce platforms and marketplaces, because the types of skill sets required across the two types of programs are quite different. Now, obviously, when it comes to things like financial literacy and developing skills around bookkeeping and wealth management and things like that, then it's going to be a bit of overlap. But overall, I would say our approach to running the two programs we're working with refugee women on are tailored to the context that we're working in.
Thank you, Aaron. I think that's useful. Any other strategies? And I think, I mean, the idea that Kasia mentioned in the beginning, that the mural is going to be open, and because I think the objective is try to understand how we can identify these strategies. Of course, there are different ways and different networks that we can touch on, but I think sharing these key or these different strategies would be interesting, and something that we can also promote and advocate for, as Kasia said.
I think maybe just to add here, and I think a lot depends also on who is providing this BDS, right? And if, for example, more formal financial institution could be involved in more than just lending or credit or some sort of asset business, because it seems to be that there is this niche, and we're trying to build up with the group that has more flexibility, but it's somehow on the not really mainstream, right? So it's kind of like a nice to have something additional to this efforts of the financial inclusion that we are having to meet the needs of people, because there is this clear gap. So I would like to know if anybody have some research or heard about anything from the work that they would be doing of what are the mainstreaming possibilities for business development strategies and that have proven successful, and what would be the approach? Olga and Olena, sorry.
Yeah, hi, it's me, it's Olena. So we at IFC have done, I think back in 2021, the global market research on non-financial services that financial institutions are providing to women SMEs, and not only women SMEs, but also SMEs in general, but with particular focus on women. So I would be happy to share the link after this call. So we explored globally what other services that financial institutions, primarily banks, are providing to SMEs to support their development and financial inclusion, starting from networking opportunities, financial education, to advisory services provided, etc. And the outcome of this was that of this study was that it brings financial benefits at the end for the banks, and in such way where we are also promoting that providing non-financial services brings to the bank additional clients, so the clients transact with such banks on a more regular basis. So I will share with you the link to the study. You can see it. Yeah. So there are precedents. Yeah.
I was speaking. Thank you for sharing the link later on. It will be very useful. Okay, I think maybe we can then move to the next question, Joanna, which would be about the KPIs. So the question that we have for you and to discuss maybe right now would be, which KPIs should be considered to measure the impact and effectiveness of microfinance initiative targeting migrants and refugees? I think, with microfinance, we are very good in doing a lot, but not really capturing the impact well. So this would be something that we can advise the members and the other and the partners that are microfinance institutions of how they can look at what they're doing. And of course, if you know about any other social finance or standard finance providers that do use the good KPIs to measure impact, it would be great that you can point us in the right direction.
Kashi, let me just add a bit on this, because I think well, there is on the outcomes and on the financial inclusion, there is a lot developed in terms of the social and financial performance indicators and KPIs. We have the universal standards for social performance and for social and environmental performance standards. So there are dozens of indicators that are being used, and other institutions have. There are several frameworks on this. I think that what would be interesting to discuss, and the reason of the question is more if microfinance institutions and financial inclusion providers are starting on the path on this, what would be the indicators, what would be the elements they should focus on and monitor to actually understand if what they are doing is effective, to understand if they are achieving their goals, and also to be able to show and showcase what results they are having. So I guess it's really trying to prioritize and try to understand what, in your experience, what would be these primary priority indicators.
Yes, and I see Lena's comment, right, about the UNHCR working on better measuring, as we are the kind of supporting of this as well. So this is a little bit thing that we would like to bring as well to the discussions that we have with them on what could be good approach. As Joanna said, there's a lot of really good standards. But I think with those kind of discussions, we can actually look at the cross fertilization. Olga, Olena?
I just would like to clarify. The question is about effectiveness of the BDS services or the financial services, or both?
I would say that would be of both, no, because they will be linked in some way.
Yeah. So
and many times the MFI is not the one actually providing the BDS, so it's kind of a linked and a bundled product. So yes, or maybe the question should be the effectiveness of BDS and microfinance initiatives as a whole. But that yes, I would say that it's the broader approach.
Yeah, I think in that case also we need to look at the impact on the beneficiaries, the ultimate beneficiaries of the BDS services, but also on the financial institutions. If we look at the impact on the beneficiaries. So their usual KPIs like depends, of course, on the type of the BDS. Like, for example, if it's a consulting service that they are getting, how it was impacting on their business. Like, was there any, whether they were able to see the increase in the sales or reduced cost, depending on the consulting which was provided. If it was, for example, a training, then of course we look at the impact. We look at the impact as well, but we are looking on the satisfaction from the training. So, like whether the people were after the training, they have seen any implementations of the recommendations that they have received during the training, etc. If you talk at the financial institution, of course, we look number of new clients acquired through the BDS, like number of transactions, or like those clients or new clients were making before they received BDS and after they received BDS. Also, like some other indicators, they also depends on the service. Like if they had a loan before or didn't have the loan before, like they were able to to get the loan after they have received BDS or not. Did the loan amount increase after the BDS? So like there are quite a lot of indicators that could be tracked, but they of course depend on their type of the BDS received and the type of financial services that this institution is providing to the clients.
Elena, can I just do a follow-up question? That is, do you have these standardized to all the programs you do? Or is it something that, depending on the program, the institutions actively participating in it are the ones that decide which type of indicators they are going to monitor?
Yeah, we do have a kind of set of indicators that we recommend to track, but it's up to the institution, of course, to decide what they will be tracking. And again, it depends on the program. Like if it, for example, if the financial institution is providing just the training or networking opportunities, there will be one set of indicators to track on the beneficiary side, and and depends on the financial products to be tracked on the financial institution side. And in the studies that I will share after the call, you will see also the sample indicators that could be tracked.
Okay, thank you.
Jana, if I can just jump in here quickly. I think we need to go back to total client cost for FSPs, because way too often we split up into financial services and non-financials, right? And the issue is always, how do we make the non-financials sustainable? Can we bundle it in? Can we cross-subsidize it? How do we make it actually sustainable? But very few of our FSPs currently actually begin to track the participation of clients in NFS before credit. So most FSPs will onboard customers and start thinking about them as customers once they open an account or take the first loan or whatever. And this add-on BDS is often siloed off, differently monitored, managed usually by external finance in a whole different silo. And I think we need to start pushing for the old idea of a total cost per client for the FSP, so that they begin to register their potential borrowers at the first contact point of that prospective borrower, which could be months ahead of them getting a loan, but they are participating in some something that is being offered. And while that is often not costed in and it's not linked into the standard sort of measurement of cost of client, it does present a cost. It may also present an opportunity. And the better, the more we get the FSPs to begin to work on total cost of client, the better we would be able to quantify what is that cost and then what is the benefit that IFC was also referring to in terms of better client, more active clients, deeper cross subsidies, etc. So the old CGAP definition of total cost of client, I really think we should try and sort of bring that back into the discussion again. Thanks.
And Lena, how do we do that? So how do you think it's the most effective way to bring the FSPs to see this broader picture? Is it a role also of the investors and the donors and the institutions that support the FSPs? How do we do that in the most effective way? If you have an idea, of course.
I think it is for everybody to actually begin to, if not require, then at least recommend a KPI that links the prospective borrower at the time of first contact. So it really is a question of making sure that the MIS of the FSP can manage to register a client who is not yet a borrower, who may not even have an account yet, but who is receiving some kind of service from that FSP. And that unique identifier that is created at first contact would then follow the client throughout the interaction with the FSP, so that the FSP begins to have a more complete understanding of all costs, but also all benefits of that one customer throughout the journey. So it's a fairly simple technical KPI, if you want, or standard of measurement, but we need to work on the understanding that this is something that could benefit the financial cost benefit analysis of the FSPs.
Thank you. I think that's a very good point, and I think something to include in all the what would come out from these discussions. And I would say that if you have other ideas or compliments or experiences on this, I think it would be great if you can share it on the mural or by email with us, because I think that will be great to integrate and to think of future actions and other things. Is there, I don't see raised hands. No, Kashi, if you want to add on this.
No, I think that those are very good points, and I think there's definitely something that we will follow up with the group of MFIs that we are working with to see what could be possible for them to implement, because this is also something that we are trying to do, that you are here as an expert because you work on those issues for a long time. So we would like to build on the information and that you are giving us to support kind of the work, that the internal work that the MFIs are doing themselves, and provide them with a guidance. And this is maybe something that to also mention, that this is not the stop of the it's not one-off kind of event. It was for us this kind of providing us with the like a kick off of our brainstorming. So you actually are doing a great favor to us to kind of help us with gathering all this, like synthesize all this knowledge that otherwise would be somewhere else, and we're going to transfer it to the discussions that we have later during the second part of the year with the MFIs and on another forum. But I think maybe we can just move. Maybe that links to the 4 questions that we have on how microfinance institutions can effectively engage and collaborate with stakeholders to support the financial inclusion of migrants and refugee entrepreneurs. Because I think this is we want to break the siloed approach. We really see that this is and from different conversations that we are having, this is something that we see is necessary, because there is a lot of cross contaminations, cross fertilization of the different discussions, and if we only look at it as the finance service providers or the BDS, it is not a full picture. The full picture would be to actually see how we can cooperate better. So if you have any ideas, that would be a good moment to just start. And I hope that you can bear with us. We have 13 more minutes, so this is the last stretch before we're finishing. And maybe so I open the question and then I give you some more additional information of what is happening later the year to also provide you with a context. No, not. So maybe I give you a little bit of context, and the context is going to provide. So you're probably aware that by the end of the year there is the Global Refugee Forum, and right now there is the moment that UNHCR is encouraging the different stakeholders to pledge, right? So they're going to be this mega multi-stakeholder pledges, and a few of the pledge as for the previous global forum, there was not so much about the financial inclusion. Right now, the idea would be that there is a more focus of the financial inclusion and entrepreneurship support. And from the conversation that we have internally, I think this is a really relevant part and kind of highlighting the work that has been done during the last few years. And for that, we would like to also build this multi-stakeholder understanding and the cooperation between the different institutions. Of course, we have a certain parts of the work, but and that's why we also trying to bring different stakeholders to talk to in the one place, because sometimes it is that the conversation are very scattered, and sometimes it might be that you don't really think that this is something that you are focusing on, because the mandate is not really the mandate that is being given, but there are certain parts of the conversation that actually are relevant. So for us, this meeting here is one of those kind of collaboration, and then we would like to also have something like this for the microfinance. The MFIs to look at in the more kind of comprehensive way, not to only talk to each other, just to open the space to talk to the different stakeholders as well, especially in this issue of migrant and refugees, because we know that although the financial inclusion is not the first thing that comes to mind when people are arriving, but there's like, of course, health, education, housing, and so on, that it becomes very relevant very soon. When we're talking about livelihoods, I think that the finance is kind of the one things that we know, especially living in European Union, that's without the bank account you can really not do much. Your comment is well noted.
I'm sorry, but it's just we often start out with migrant and refugees, and then especially in politicized contexts, we shut down anybody or half of government officials, right? Especially. And from my work in the field, I tend to start with the financial health for all, and everybody is in agreement, and they can see the benefits and blah, blah, blah. And it's less of a, it's an easier starting point. And then when we begin to say, okay, but for everyone, and then we look at, okay, so which segments are currently not included? And then we start saying, okay, so what can we do to make sure, as we have just agreed, everybody, that we need to have financial inclusion or perhaps even better financial health for all residents? And then I find that the discussion becomes a little easier rather than just being closed off with political statements up front. The other thing, sort of more concretely, and I don't know if we still need it, but I hear it still a lot in the field, is that we don't speak the same language, right? I mean, the humanitarians and the development segments still have two different languages, and NGOs, government, and everybody else have additional languages. And I'm just wondering if we need to make a sort of dictionary of terms and what they mean for at least public sector, private sector, financial service providers, and humanitarians, which seems to me to be the four main languages we're dealing with. And I do a lot of interpretation work in the field, because when a statement is heard from one of these four stakeholder groups, it's immediately interpreted and understood in a specific way by the others. And I'm just wondering if a sort of dictionary might be a very sort of concrete way of highlighting that issue, but also perhaps making sure that the four or however many we have stakeholder groups are better able to communicate and talk about the collaboration and the engagement and all the other good things that we want. I'd be interested to hear what people think of that idea. Thanks.
I think if there aren't any comments here, that is something that for certain we can share in the broader group. And there are already a few people that had to leave and that are not in the meeting anymore. Something that for sure we are going to question, Lena, because that doesn't exist right now, right? And that would be something that could be a good. I'm thinking of the network side of us, and what us Microfinance Center, which is also a network, what can be the interesting activities. That was also always a difficulty for us in terms of EMFP, to try to understand what can be specific activities that can be actually implemented and that can be useful for these multi-stakeholder members that we have and that work in the field and that work with the populations. And I guess for Microfinance Center is a bit the same, because that's I guess where we can really contribute is building on your and all the other presence in the meeting experience and expertise to provide this concrete instruments and tools that can be used by the financial institutions, but also others. And Olga, I think Olga and Olena, yeah?
Yeah, so maybe I would like to share how we work at IFC on supporting financial institutions with establishing the partnerships. Again, everything starts with understanding the needs. So we first do the market research to understand the needs of their target segments, be SMEs or refugees or migrants. Then also we help the bank, help the FSPs then to map different providers that are in their in that specific country and responsible for different BDS services. So like we try to understand who in the country is offering training, so to the specific topics which are of interest to migrants or refugees, who are providing the consulting services, who are what universities having any topics on establishing the business or developing the business, etc. So we are doing this comprehensive mapping of providers. Then we support also financial institutions in choosing those providers and developing the terms of reference to them. Like what would be like be it like, because there are different areas which could be like it could be different types of cooperation. So, for example, FSPs can hire a company or institution to provide specific services, or it could be a partnership, as you are mentioning. So, what are the responsibilities of each side in those partnerships? And how the impact will be measured, what indicators need to be tracked. So this is the algorithm that we are following. But again, we are always starting with understanding the needs, because what we see that sometimes we think that, for example, in that FDPs might or refugees might need short-term financing, where in reality they're looking for long-term financing. The same is with their BDS services. We might think they need support with registering the business, but they have passed through this stage already, and they need support in building the networks, finding the suppliers, etc. So understanding the needs is always crucial.
Thank you very much. And this is all very relevant and very interesting, and we are for sure going to follow up on some of the ideas that were here. And as we have 2 minutes till the end of the meeting, and so we like to, not to keep you longer than we promised to keep you. So just to wrap up, so that's as we were saying, this was an expert meeting because we wanted to bring create a brain trust from all of you and have your expertise on these topics that we can later use. So and kind of follow up on a several strand of this conversations. So the next steps will be, we will organize with the members of the BDS working group that EMPF and MFC do have together. And I didn't send my dog. Sorry, I know that it's something is the other Katarina Hanula dog is barking. So we're going to have the meeting with the members of the working group, when we're going to present some of the follow-ups to these conversations. Then we will continue the conversation during the Social Finance Vibe and during the European Microfinance Week. So we will communicate also on those two occasions. But the most recent follow-up would be that you will receive with us a letter with the points, with the mural, if you would like to contribute more, with the links to the relevant document, and also the follow-up, because we have a 5th question suite. Unfortunately, we were not able to address today, that if you would like to contribute to that as well, we probably will pick up some of the individual conversations with you to dig a little bit deeper. And just for me not to remember, there will be a wonderful resource that I hope you're going to also be able to use, which is the platform that we are co-moderating with Joanna, which we're right now renewing the membership. But the idea of this is to actually put the resources and have a conversation that are relevant for the migrants and refugees, financial inclusion and entrepreneurship. And this is going to, the link and the registration is going to follow we'll follow up in an email as well. So I would like to thank all of you for being here with us this afternoon, and Joanna, I don't know, famous last words.
Oh God, I think everybody needs to go. So, but thank you for being here. It was really interesting, and I think for us it's really interesting to have this meeting of EMFP more working in the global south and the EU component, because I think there are many common points in the work that we do, and for us it's very good to be here. So thank you.